So I just want to start off just by thanking you all for coming. I'm really excited to have so many like local musicians in the zone, and I'm excited to see what we're going to be doing. So we've got a structure that I might just outline for everybody just to see how we're getting on. Basically, we're going to talk to you all for 10 minutes, and then we've got like a 5-minute question like for the open to the floor, and that at the end we'll just have 20 minutes of discussion where we'll just like pick up anything said and just say sort of, yeah. So that's what we've got there. It would be nice if we all just briefly introduce ourselves at the beginning, just so that everybody knows who you guys are, where your roots were, and then we'll get into the questions. Cool. Melanie, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. So my name is Melanie Baker. I'm an indie folk singer-songwriter based in the Lake District. I have been playing gigs and writing songs and stuff for the last sort of 5 or 6 years now. And yeah, it's kind of like my full-time job, and do all the music stuff, released some EPs. I've got 2 EPs and a couple of singles, some music videos. I play in a band with Josh as well. He's my drummer and he's great. And this can be a segue into Josh introducing himself.
Josh, go.
So I'm Josh. I'm a mixture of many things. So I work as a freelance musician and producer in a number of different kind of projects. So I play for my own band called Luna Collagio. So we're like an indie rock alternative outfit with loads of my friends that I met down at Kendall College when I was studying there. I play for Melanie Baker, which is loads and loads of fun. And I started doing that back in September of last year. And we've done loads of cool stuff since then. I lead BlueJam Samba group for a long time now. I think it's since 2013. So I've been leading that band since 2013. So 7 years, and it's just grown and grown and grown, and now we're like 30 members strong, which is crazy. I founded the record label Jam on Toast Records, and we have a few artists signed, including Chris Nelson. We signed Luna Collagio, David Anderton, and I produce a weekly podcast called The Lockdown Effect, where I chat to various artists from Cumbria and around Scotland. Musicians, creatives,
loads of stuff.
Loads
of stuff. I'm just in awe. So Joe, do you want to go and describe your who you are and how you got into music and everything?
I'm Joe Steele. How's it going? I've always been kind of around music. It's always been in the family. I'm extensively a kind of jazz musician living in Cumbria now. But I've been in college for the past 4 years down in Birmingham. So I'm kind of back in Cumbria now, trying to get involved with BlueJam, which has been great. Trying to kind of set myself up a little bit as a freelance musician. So yeah, we're gonna see how that goes. I've done some stuff with Bryony as well. Went to Paris and did like a radio recording.
Whoa.
I did some gigs in college with organist Ross Stanley as well, which is pretty great. If anyone's heard of him, check him out.
Cool. Yeah, I'll check him out. I'm excited. So are we ready to go into like questions now? Yeah? Melanie?
Yeah, I am. I'm ready.
So you've just introduced yourself, so you don't need to tell us all what you were about, but maybe we can have a 30-second clip of your music so we can hear the kind of thing that you do.
I'm not ready for
Okay, cool. I think it's stopped now. Yeah, so as I was saying before I interrupted my own song, yeah, that's a bit of my song called Broken. It's the title track of an EP I released this year. I recorded it last year in March. It was an EP that I crowdfunded, so I raised £5,000 to make a 6-track EP. And I actually went over that goal, over that target. I think it was like 5,300 we hit, and that was after
Always good.
a month of fundraising. So that was amazing. A really cool start to last year, and then finally got to release it this year, which was really cool.
Cool. So maybe we go into the questions. I'm like, so what is your, so you started off in music, you went into like online, and what's your experience of that? Like how did you find that? What advice would you give to somebody that wanted to go into that?
Yeah, so I guess my journey kind of started on YouTube. I started a YouTube channel. I was posting like covers and original songs, and that was like really around the time that I was like first like getting into music, like writing my own songs properly and stuff. You know, I've always done like musical theatre and like been a part of like some sort of performing arts at school, and like just like a theatre company that I was a part of. But yeah, when I started writing my own songs, I was probably like 14 or 15. I started a YouTube channel, and that's kind of like what took me into this like online community of musicians and stuff. And I guess when I started, you know, it wasn't an actual decision to start a music career. It was kind of just like for fun. And I think after like growing a pretty organic fan base, it kind of started from there. And that's when I realized that, oh, this is cool. This is something that I want to do and continue doing.
So what was it like when you first posted something? Like, did you just sort of do it for fun and was like, oh, I'll just put it up, and then it was like some people responded and then it grew from there? Is that what happened?
Yeah, I guess it was just like really gradual and organic. And I think I posted my first YouTube video, and it won't have got a lot of views. It would have had like maybe racked up to like 100 within like the first month. Like not a lot. It's it doesn't really, you know, like this idea of like putting out your first YouTube video and it like going viral is something that doesn't happen to most people, I don't think. So yeah, it was really just like a way of putting some stuff out there. I watched a lot of YouTube musicians and artists and stuff, and so yeah, it was just for fun, and gradually over time I like gained this following on YouTube, which was pretty cool.
Was that your sort of way to connect to musicians initially, or were you always sort of in the...
Yeah, I guess it definitely opened up that avenue for me. I didn't, because I didn't study music in school. I wasn't really a part of any like music communities or music groups. I didn't have those people around me, and I guess YouTube was like that first like window of like meeting or like engaging with like-minded musicians and songwriters and artists and just creatives in general. I'd never really had that sort of community around me, so that was definitely like the first step for that, finding like my people kind of thing.
Yeah, it's great. It's just nice to hear. I like last week they sort of talked about this organic growth and just putting it out there, and it's nice that it's sort of come up again this week, and just like going for your music and put it out there and see what happens and see who responds. I think that's really, really cool, and it's quite a brave thing to do. So yeah, question is about Nashville. I want to know everything about it, like what like, how did you get there, is it where you would like to return to? Just like give us all the information. I think it looks,
everything Nashville. Yeah, it was so I went to Nashville, I get confused with time at the moment, so it would have been not last year, the year before, 2 years ago I went to Nashville. I would have been 18, and yeah, I went for a songwriting retreat I met this guy who puts on like songwriting retreats around the world. And I decided to go to the one in Nashville because I was like, I want to go to Nashville. That's a cool
How did you
place.
meet him? Like, did you message him or?
We met at a gig. So I was supporting him. He was a musician as well. He's from Cumbria actually as well. He's called Luke Yates. He's quite well known in the sort of like music industry within Cumbria. So I met him. He was like, I put on these retreats. You probably love them. You should look into them. I looked into it. It sounded amazing. It's like 7-day retreats where you co-write with a bunch of other songwriters and you learn from industry experts and just like surround yourself with music and writing. And I learned so much on that retreat. You know, that was like a huge turning point for me. And yeah, Nashville is amazing. I didn't see as much of it as I would have liked. At the time I was underage, so I couldn't go into any of like the venues or like the bars or anything. So
was it like a camping trip? Like, what was it like? What kind of things did you learn?
Yeah, so it was like we were all staying in this big sort of cabin in the woods, like on the edge of Nashville, and it was like it was very American. It was very cool and like isolated. And we would get up every morning and do yoga and like eat healthy food, and it was really cool. And then we would have sort of like a group session where we would have like a workshop about something to do with the music industry, so like music publishing and distributing your music, writing albums, stuff like that. And like we all asked questions. They got in different experts. We like annotated and took apart like famous songs and stuff like that. So
yeah, sounds great.
It was
and just being surrounded by all those musicians is just like, I don't know, I think that's really, it sounds, there's so the next question, maybe we can come back to Nashville like at the end, but maybe the next question is like, what was the most important decision to get yourself where you are today? And if you can't think of the most important thing, just something that you think is like, yeah, cool.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, I think it's hard to pinpoint one specific thing that has like led to everything, because I think it's like a bunch of different things. And I've been, it's like only within like the last sort of year I've been able to go like full time with my music. So it's been like the last few years since finishing my A-levels of like me getting to this point. And I still feel like I'm like at the very beginning as well. Like I'm learning new things every day, and learning how to keep progressing and getting to where I want to be going in the future. I think one of the most important things, like the conscious decisions I made, was to be an independent artist. I think before that I'd like always been waiting for an opportunity where I have like a manager or a booking agent or something. I was like waiting for someone to come along and like help take control of my career and like progress it to the next level. And I think when I made, and I think it would have been within like the last year or something, I made a decision that I want to do this on my own, and like I'm going to do the hard work on my own. And I think you have to have like a bit more of like a business mindset and like make your like music career into a business. And I think making that decision changed a lot, because like I took control of like everything, and then I started seeing a lot of progress in my career because I was doing the things that could change it, rather than just like waiting for an opportunity kind of thing. So I'd say that was probably an important decision that to change that like mindset, I guess.
How do you balance that kind of creativity and organization? Like you're going for it, you're doing it, and you like, do you find that difficult to balance, or is it something that comes quite natural to you?
It's definitely hard. And I know a lot of musicians who are like, they want someone else to come and do that part for them, because you can be a musician and love being creative and love writing songs and love making music, it doesn't mean you're necessarily going to want to like manage your own career and like do all the boring stuff. Like personally, I quite enjoy it. I quite enjoy that sort of like entrepreneurial like side of things. And so I guess, yeah, I like having that like full control over it, I think.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of work. Like it's a lot more work than you would think it is. Like when you signed up to be a musician, you didn't think it was going to be like all this other stuff of essentially like starting a business is what it is.
Yeah.
Like you are your business.
Yeah, but it's amazing that you can take that opportunity, and to hear that you're just doing it independently. I think for me that's really inspiring as like somebody that's just starting out and just thinking this is my music and I'm going to take ownership of it. And like I've had feedback, because you've had feedback that it's really good, so I think that's really great.
Yeah, and I think it's like empowering as well, like taking control of it and like believing in yourself. Like if you believe in yourself and your music, then it will like naturally do a little bit better because you're like putting all your like passion into something.
Definitely. So the next question we've got is it how you envisioned your career? Have there been any surprises and lessons learned? We might have kind of like crossed over on some topics there, but what have been the surprises you can briefly say?
Yeah, I guess like I said before, when I was starting out my journey with like the YouTube thing, I wasn't necessarily like making the decision to have a career in music, so it happened like quite organically at the start. I think things I've learned, I've definitely, yeah, like I was saying, like about choosing to be an independent artist, I think there's a couple of things I didn't realize at the start, like things I had that were like powerful, like growing a fan base. I had like this fan base on YouTube and I didn't realize how powerful that was at the time. You know, when I was like a 15-16-year-old with like 20,000 subscribers, I was like, they're not real life people, like they're not real fans. I didn't get it at the time, but that's like such a powerful thing to have. Like that is how you have, like as an artist, that's how you have a career, is by having a fan base. And I don't think I understood that at the time, and now
that's what it's about, isn't it? Like it's about people that love your music and like you're sharing that. For some people obviously there's different routes, but that is definitely something that,
and that's definitely something that I've learned, is like pretty much at the center of it is like having people that support you and your music. And if you can have that, then you're like already on your way there.
Definitely. Our last question was like, what advice would you make for someone just starting making music in regards to like what they should do next?
I would say, I mean, there's like a couple of different things. I think the first is just like honing your craft and like getting really good and like practicing loads and doing it loads. I know I've been like at times like impatient and just like I said, like waiting for an opportunity rather than just like focusing on the actual music. Like the reason you want a music career is because you want to make music, so make the music and like enjoy the process, and just like practice and get really good and put your all into it. So
we have a few questions from our audience, which is exciting.
Cool.
One is what's next in your journey? What are the next steps?
It's a good question, because the COVID happened and like that was like my whole year cancelled essentially. Like I had a UK tour planned and like a bunch of festivals and like busking and loads of gigs, which obviously not happening anymore. So it's kind of been tipped upside down a little bit. So I think the next plans, honestly, like at the moment I'm just concentrating on making some new music, and like I've been recording demos, and just like thinking about getting some music out there, because that's kind of all I can do right now. So I'd say just, yeah, I'm going to be writing a lot of songs, working on the music, and getting it out there, because I have no idea when I'll be able to gig again.
Yeah, and using it as a time to be like focus on that.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks. I really appreciate you coming on and talking to us about all your stuff, and yeah, very cool. Maybe we'll move on to Josh.
Hello.
We've got a few questions for you, but first, do you want to introduce your 30-second clip of your music?
So this 30-second clip is of my band Luna Collage's debut single, The Past, and it's, yeah.
I don't know who I am anymore. I'm just a former version of who I was with you.
Cool. Sounds great.
Thank you. So that song came out from a jam that we had just before our debut gig at Soulfest last year. So we played a debut gig at Soulfest on the bar stage, and like a couple of rehearsals before, we just had this jam, and that tune came out of it. And Jamie played when it drops into that breakdown. Jamie played that for the first time, and like us three just went like, we were like, man, this is so cool. Like, this has to be our, like, we need to drop this as the debut single, because it's so like strong and powerful, and it has like infuses like the different elements and influences on the band and things, and shows that off in a really good light. So that's kind of where that tune came from. Yeah.
Great. It's nice to hear how something, I'm always interested, like where something comes from, how it comes from, like what created it. So why don't you tell us a bit of information about you?
Like my journey as an artist and a musician.
Yeah, just where you came from, how you got there.
So I kind of started out very classically trained back in Wales. So I lived in Newport in South Wales, and there was like a music centre that I used to go to like every Saturday that my brass teacher at the time ran. So I started brass lessons in like year 3, so I was 6 or 7, 8, I don't know, whatever age you are at year 3. I started playing the trumpet then, and it's kind of something I've lost touch with a bit, but that's kind of how I got into music. I went to those every Saturday just with like loads of other kids like my age playing tunes and things. I kind of really missed that, actually, doing that. But our family made the decision to do with my dad's work, and we moved up to Cumbria. And I very quickly met Jilly, and like the BlueJam team at the time, and got involved with the transition choir that was happening at school. So that was all about bridging the connection between school, primary school and secondary school, and making that gap not so like daunting and scary for kids. So like trying to introduce them to people from big school and stuff, and like through the medium of music. Like,
what kind of education did you have? Like, did you go?
So after I did loads of stuff through BlueJam. So I did the Vintage Contemporary project with BlueJam. Then I started the Samba band in 2013, and then Tom Worker was on the first webinar that we did, and he was like a massive kind of like pushing point for me going in like a production route. So I kind of saw him messing about with others' gear and like creating all these cool sounds and things, and like the effect that like technology can have on creation of music and things. So that kind of steered me in the direction of being like, yeah, that's something that I want to pursue and delve into a bit more.
Cool.
To try and, because it's like a different side of things. It's like the flip side, because I'm like I'm a musician as well, so I play drums and stuff.
Yeah,
But I also have this like flip side, and I understand the other side of things, which is kind of a cool perspective to come from, and that's something I kind of recommend to people is try and learn a bit about the technology side of things.
Yeah, great.
So you kind of understand that. So I went.
Did you go to college?
Yeah, so I went to college. I went to Carlisle College back in 2016. I decided I started doing my A levels and really decided that like wasn't the thing for me at all. Like I absolutely hated A levels. Like as a creative person, I just yeah. I knew what my focus was, and I like just wanted to do music, and I was doing all this other stuff, and I was like, I just want to be doing this, my passion, and this thing that I just like care about and love so much.
What was that like?
It was like, honestly, it was like a nightmare, like just being stuck in this rut of like not being able to do this.
College.
With college.
Yeah.
College was great. I learned a lot actually, and met some really, really great people. Like it taught me all the like foundations of recording live sound. Like I learned Logic back to front at college, and that's become a really useful thing for me. And then I went on to do my HND down in Kendal, which is probably like the thing that's opened the biggest amount of opportunities for me now. I think is meeting the people that I met down there and doing that thing, and all the things that kind of happened there.
What's HND? Sorry. So
HND is a higher national diploma, so it's the equivalent of level 4 and 5. So it's like doing it's kind of like doing an undergraduate degree, but kind of an equivalent. So that's the thing that I did, which took a more vocational kind of thing. So I did some written coursework and submitted some videos and recordings and things to get that qualification. But it was just like the people there, like I learned so much because they've been there and they've done it. And they have all this wealth of knowledge and stuff to pass on to me. So I learned so much about the industry and like just putting on gigs, like putting gigs on in open air spaces. Like that was really interesting to see like all the stuff.
Cool.
Like all the complicated stuff that goes into that, yeah. And loads of other stuff, yeah.
Did you kind of feel like you were playing quite a lot, playing live? Do you still think that's one of the most important parts of the whole thing?
Yeah, I think live music still like a massive part of the industry. I think this is something that we can have like hours of conversation about.
Yeah.
I'm sure Melanie has a lot to say about this actually, about how little money there is in like actual physical sales of music and things. So like playing live and getting out live is a massive way that artists can make money.
Yeah.
And can build a fan base. And there's loads of ways of doing that. A lot of people find it very hard to get out and try and gig, but like just starting with your like local open mics and things is a really good way to just get out and meet other musicians and just try and like open up that conversation with people, like or people will come up to you, like, and then gig opportunities might come through that.
Yeah, like we were
and
saying,
there is other organizations that help fund live music tours and things, so like PRS for Music and Off Axis and Hit the Road in Scotland and stuff. They provide like a point system and things to get you on the road and gigging and things. Yeah,
those are good things.
I think it's really important, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of every musician would. I think playing live is just great. Not every musician, but I think a lot of musicians love live music.
I do. I'd probably go to like, I'd probably go to it in excess of like 50 gigs a year, I reckon.
As many gigs as possible.
Yeah, as many gigs as I can get to.
So what are your next steps like with the COVID and everything? How are you?
I haven't really thought about it till now, actually. um, I'm kind of thinking like right now. I'm thinking like post-COVID, like what can I do post-COVID? Like I'm trying to do stuff. I'm finishing up this album. Like I was saying, I'm finishing up this album with Cal, so that's part of like Jam on Toast and the record label stuff that I'm doing. But really, what I want to do is like try and there's a lack of live. I still feel like there's a lack of live music in Cumbria, like massively. I still think that there's not enough people supporting it and being made aware of what talent and like amazing people like are on offer, and like all these like massive artists, like they all started out in the same position that we're in right now, like, and it's trying to make people aware that grassroots music is where everyone starts, and we should be supporting that. So what I want to do is try and set up like monthly nights and seminars and things for musicians and artists in the area through Jam on Toast.
What, so monthly nights where you like gig or like an open mic type thing?
Yeah, like showcases and gigs and things where people can come along and
yeah, that sounds great.
see what talent's on offer in Cumbria.
Yeah, sounds cool.
That's probably where I want to go. Yeah.
What advice would you make for someone just starting out in music in regards to what they should do?
Just do loads of it. Just do loads of it, honestly. Like until you're at a point where you're making a lot of money from it, like try and take as many opportunities as you can. Keep those doors opening for you. Like go to loads of gigs, obviously after COVID, and try and speak to people, meet people. You can even do that online. Like it's really easy to do that online, like via YouTube community, via Facebook groups, webinars, all sorts of things. Like there's loads of resources out there for you to meet people.
Right. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
So we've got a few questions from the floor. What kind of equipment did you use starting out, and what do you use now? Do you have any advice for equipment?
Literally, I probably started out making some recordings on my like iPhone when I started out, like, and just like playing about with like little bits of EQ and like things just on like GarageBand, like starting out recording, get GarageBand, like it's a couple of quid on your iPhone or your iPad or whatever, and just like play about with it and see how the ways that you can affect sound and things. But now I've got my own little 4-channel like focus. What do I have? It's a Focusrite Scarlett like 4-channel interface. I have a couple of mics. I have like one condenser and one dynamic. I think that's probably all you need if you're recording most things except for drums. You don't really need anything too expensive, really. Like just a little 2-channel like recording interface, anything, and like one mic would probably get you started in recording world.
We also have, what do you feel changed from you for the Future Leaders opportunity? Did that give you some, what did that change for you?
That was a massive like
What that is, because I don't think we've touched that.
So Future Leaders was an opportunity for me to go down to Manchester and meet with 40 other young people involved. Not just, it was mainly focused on like carnival arts sector, but like and like wider arts opportunities. So I went down there and did loads of residentials, working on like business development, marketing, like self-awareness, like mental health, and just loads of like focusing on my art form and working on drumming and stuff. But like that opportunity for me was like amazing, confidence booster, because like it was such an empowering experience and gave me like that space to like reflect and like talk about what I was doing, which I'd never really had that space to like go into like sort of like that deep reflection and thinking about like why am I a musician? Why am I doing this? What's the purpose of me doing this? And like what do I want to achieve with my career? So that's like, I think that was like the biggest thing that came out of it, as well as all the like wealth of knowledge and this massive network of people that I've met through it.
Have that time to like really question those things. I think it's good. We have one final question before we move on to Joe. Where is it? What's your method for creating random rhythms, sounds to audition than for making tracks?
Well, I don't do a lot of like making my own tracks. I work with other people on produce it. Like what I do is work with other people on their songs and building up their songs and like structuring their songs, adding different elements and like making their songs the best form and the best, what's the word, like trying to help them get their vision across the best way that they possibly can. But to try and answer that, what's my method of creating random rhythms, sounds to audition them for making tracks? Just
You're always creating rhythms. You can't. But I guess you kind of feel what they're like. You fit it in, don't you?
yeah, it's just like I listen to a lot of different music and like a lot of like different Afrobeat, like loads of different world music. And I went to Africa and like having that, I think that's all been like via osmosis, just kind of like engraved into me. And I think
I met someone once that went to Africa and she studied like 500 different drumming patterns. Like she spent years just studying all these different drumming patterns that they had. And I thought that's the coolest thing ever.
It's amazing.
Yeah, cool. So we'll go on to Joe and then maybe, I mean, I could talk about African drumming patterns.
Oh.
let's go on to Joe. And then we'll
Thanks
back to you all for the last 20 minutes. So Joe, do you just want to introduce the 30-second clip and tell us a bit about it?
Yeah, cool. So I wrote this song after I went on a it's not actually the song, it's me soloing over the changes to a song I wrote in college after I went to a retreat with Mike Walker, who's a jazz guitarist in England. So yeah, he's from the Northwest as well, and he's been a big influence on me. So yeah, that's what it is. Let's hear it.
Sounds great.
Cool. Yeah.
It's cool.
Thanks. Cool.
So maybe you could just tell us a bit of information about you, like what route you took into music.
Yeah, so I kind of always been around music, as I said at the start. So it's always been in the family, you know. My dad's a musician, and my brother's a musician as well. So we grew up with Appleby Jazz Festival, which was like an amazing thing on our doorstep. But you know, I was really young at the time, so it was kind of to use what Josh just said, it was kind of osmosis. So I didn't actually pick up the jazz thing until a lot later, but I think that was a big influence on me early on. I mean, I was a little kid. I was kind of running around, not really listening, but it was great. It was there. I was there as well, most importantly. Yeah. So my dad kind of started teaching me the guitar when I was about 8. So yeah, we kind of played together, and it was really good fun. And he kind of pushed me a lot, which was to be expected. Yeah, and my brother was playing as well, so we kind of had some bands going on. We used to play like rock gigs and stuff when I was like 10. So that was
Rock at 10, yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of my brother's thing, but he kind of got me involved, so it was great. And it taught me a lot of things, like musical fundamentals, which I have hopefully, had
Yeah.
held on to throughout my life so far. So yeah, I got a bit older, and I was kind of my parents were kind of traveling me around a little bit more to get to more opportunities. So I was going to Lancaster for like big band. I was getting lessons with someone out in Cockermouth who'd been to Leeds College of Music a good 20 years earlier, and so he was really influential on me as well. So yeah, so maybe I was kind of going through sixth form about that time, and then going to college. I went first out. I went to Leeds College of Music to do the undergrad course, and I spent about 6 weeks there, and then dropped out for a number of reasons. It was kind of what I needed at the time, living where I have been in Cumbria. I wanted, musical direction. I wanted people to tell me this is what you need to do to get to, I wanted that, and I didn't feel like I was getting that at Leeds. I think it would have been great had I had, an idea in my head of what I wanted to get out of music and where I wanted to go with it. But I wanted a bit more like, these are the fundamentals. This is how you can get into so and so, in order to be able to do that myself, I guess. So yeah, and I wanted a bit more of the history as well. It wasn't kind of focused on the history. It was quite a contemporary sort of outlook they had on studying music. So yeah, I took a year out, and then I went and applied by absolute chance and got into Birmingham Conservatoire, and I went down there for 4 years.
It's pretty impressive to get into a conservatoire.
Yeah, well, yeah, you say that. I mean, I had, it was a complete off chance. Because my brother had been there, I thought, I was applying to loads of different universities, and I thought, just on the off chance that I get an audition, and yeah, I went to the audition, and yeah, got a place, and some money as well to study there. So.
You got a scholarship as well as a.
Well, I got it was like a part scholarship. It was like $3,500 a year towards the studies.
It's quite a lot.
Yeah, I wasn't complaining. Yeah, yeah, it was pretty great. Yeah.
So now looking back on a conservatoire, what kind of things are they looking for? Like, how would you, if you had tips to get in? Obviously, you sort of stumbled upon it, but at the same time, do you think you know what they're looking for?
Well, I was lucky at the time because, as I said, my brother was there at the time that I was applying. So he was massively helpful in, what kind of I needed to do in order to get there. So I was lucky because also with me having a year out, I had some time to like focus myself. I wasn't going straight from sixth form into college, which I think, was really helpful. And I think it is really helpful for a lot of people. A lot of people seem to go there a little bit later. It doesn't have to be that straight transition from sixth form or from college. It's straight into university. So that was really helpful. I guess the things that I needed to work on was sort of listening mostly. I needed to kind of get really into jazz. That was the most important thing. I remember my lecturer said that it was it was 90%, 99% listening and 1% actual practice. So yeah, you can. Yeah, listening is a massive aspect for me, and just being immersed in. It doesn't have to be jazz either. It can be really like personal to you, and can be really eclectic, and it's great if it is. It's really influential. So yeah,
what
other
they're
thing. Sorry, go on.
sorry. So that's what they're looking for, just that love and that passion and like listening to it
Yeah,
and
exactly. Yeah, I think if you're really into it, then that speaks worlds to other people.
yeah.
Passion is something that comes across straight away
Mm.
But yeah, some more practical things were sort of like instrumental technique, which I kind of got through transcribing musicians and yeah, different you know technical exercises and stuff like that. Stuff that everyone kind of knows that a lot of people know they're there, but you have to go through the rigmarole of spending hours and hours on it.
I know.
Yeah.
I feel that.
Yeah, but no, I was lucky because the year out gave me a chance to focus my aims and really kind of hone in on what I want, a little bit more about what I wanted to do with it. And so I got to the interview, and he was saying, why didn't you apply last year? Why is it just coming to you now? And I was like, I kind of didn't think I was good enough, and I
Yeah.
needed more time, and he was very responsive to that and saying that that's very kind of good. It's good to kind
Yeah,
of
just to be honest.
just realize where you're at and just be honest with yourself. It's really hard
Yeah.
sometimes,
Yeah.
but it was important for me.
What do you feel like being at a conservatoire has taught you? What do you think you've learned from, like, obviously you've learned loads, but like if you could sum it up?
Yeah, the big one I always think is the skills to teach myself. So like you're obviously going to get loads and loads of stuff from college. They try and push sort of 20, 30 years of material into 4 years. So you come away with just heaps and heaps of like sheets and where you've taken notes on it, every lecture, and it's been like, because there's so much material, and then everyone explains it differently. But it's important to take a step back and kind of collate the information and go at it at your own pace, because you're not going to be able to jam all this information into your head in 4 years, because it's a crazy amount of information. But yeah, that was the big one for me. I guess some others, it was an opportunity to learn from like some of the best jazz musicians in the world, which was really amazing for me. We was lucky enough to have John O'Gallagher, who's like a New York sax player. He came across and was doing a PhD at Birmingham, so he started to teach at the college, and so we got a bit of an insight into a completely different world. I mean, his musical world is based on contemporary 12-tone music, and it's a totally different world, and it was really exciting to just to get a little snippet of what that was about. And yeah, I feel like that's a life goal.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And to see that and to be in that environment, it must have been great.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and just to see all this. Yeah. So could you describe sort of some of the journeys you're talking about, all these different people that you're with? Like, could you describe some of those journeys that you like, that your like peers might have gone to? Like, what kind of routes have they taken?
Yeah, so I was under the impression that when I got to college that everyone was like, been studying for years and had been to all the like junior jazz programs, and everyone was like amazing. But when you actually talk to them, you kind of they come from similar backgrounds. Everyone's kind of going through the same thing. or not most people are. I mean, you get the people who've been to the juniors and whatnot, but most people are from similar kind of backgrounds. They might have had, influences, different influences, and you know, but everyone comes from the grassroots. It's about how you kind of your attitude towards um, pursuing music, and yeah, I think, yeah, and your attitude towards progressing in the future as well, and how you're thinking of music, because it's not like a short term pursuit.
What kind of things are they doing now? Like what are
Yeah.
all sort of, just if you could think of it and some examples, that would be.
So a big one was a lot of guys were going down to London to study more. So it was like, school, undergrad, masters, just like the
Yeah,
classic flow through everything. Yeah, there was a couple of guys who were gonna, get enough gigs and be around enough um, to be part of the scene and to, make money from playing, basically. But most people weren't going to get that straight from college. They weren't going to go into the jazz community and be able to make money straight away. Yeah, I was never. I think it's not just being good enough as well. I think it's a whole attitude and a whole kind of mindset. You've got to really believe in yourself and think, I'm going to be really great. Well, you are, maybe you don't have to think, but
I'm the best.
no, well, no, that's not. That's not. I think you've got to have self belief, and
Yeah.
a lot of people don't have that. That's one of the problems with college, is that the psychological, um, you know, turmoil you get by being around, criticism, and
Yeah.
because it's a personal thing, and when someone
It's like your soul.
criticizes you, it's really it can be really demeaning. It's how you kind of take it, um, yeah, and move on.
Do you feel that's affected you in a good way or bad way? Like, I guess those
Yeah, it's
both.
bit of, yeah, exactly, yeah, a bit of a mixture. So it's been good because it's given me the kind of drive to get good and put the work in, spend a lot of time um, on things that I needed to spend time on. But it's been
I feel
bad
like it was a supportive environment.
No, not really. Um, there were people that would support you, but it wasn't like an actively. It was more if you went up to them and like, I'm really struggling here. There were people that would, help you, but on average, it wasn't like they were going out of their way to look after you.
Yeah.
They were trying to make you good, and by if not bullying you, but they would, if you didn't put the time in and you came in with a piece of work that wasn't all that, then they would tell you pretty straight, which is it's good for a lot of people, and it was good for me because I was kind of discerning about how I'd take it and who I'd take it from, but it still cuts you up.
Yeah. It's a difficult thing, I think. Yeah, whether you can take it or not. I think some people can, and some people it doesn't. It's not their vibe. So
Yeah, you have to have this kind of mental, attitude that you're gonna learn from it.
I guess they're trying to set you up for the real world in a way, if that's what the real world is like.
Yeah. Well, they always said, oh, you've got it easy here. As soon as you go out into the real world, it's going to be way harder. And it was like, oh right, this sounds great.
20 years of this. Everyone's telling me I'm shit. Oh.
No, there was the other side. You did you put your time in, and you did some good things, you'd get applause for it, and you get you know, I did put my time in the last year. Well, I put my time in throughout college, and I was lucky enough in the last year. I got. I said to one of my lecturers, I was like, you know, I want to put this gig on. It's a Wes Montgomery's birthday, and he was like, "Oh, great! We'll get a Hammond organ in, and we'll get Ross Stanley, who's like a leading Hammond organ player around England." And so he came across, and I did a gig with him, and I recorded you know, like an album, an unreleased
Great.
album with him. So you do get the rewards. It's kind of, you know, it pays off if you put your time in.
Yeah,
I don't
benefit.
want to be off, you know. I don't want to be
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
no, well, because it was great. I mean, I couldn't have had you know, I had a really positive experience looking back, but
Yeah.
you know, there is that side to it as well.
Well, it's really good to like hear that sort of the both sides and to measure that up, but also to know that like you're in that environment and the opportunities are there. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
How so like maybe we could there's a few questions and maybe we could then open to the floor. Like how have you found the online environment, Melanie? Do you feel like that's a different kind of vibe, or I guess they're not trying to teach you?
Yeah, in terms of like criticism and stuff. And
Yeah.
yeah, I guess it's like putting your music online is like a very like vulnerable thing to do. Like literally like anyone can say anything.
Yeah.
I feel like I've been lucky enough to have like 99% like positive feedback. But I mean, like the criticism that comes through is generally like not constructive. It might just be like a hater on a song, but that's cool.
Yeah.
Like,
It's not
everyone's
like
gonna
do
like it.
this, change this chord to this. So
Yeah, and I guess like yeah, I was finding it really interesting listening to you, Joe, because I feel like we've like in fact like all of us like come from like very different paths, which I'm assuming like that's like the point of this like discussion, and like we've all like come from different places and like we'll have like very different careers, and like I've definitely like felt, because I haven't studied music, I'm just like self-taught and I've come from just like doing it all on my own kind of thing, like feeling like intimidated by other musicians and like being like nervous to work with other musicians because I don't feel like I'm a proper musician. I'm just, you know, pretending. I guess it's that like imposter syndrome thing. And yeah, I guess in like any environment, it's like you're like always like comparing yourself to other people, like other musicians and other people doing something similar to you. I guess Joe and Josh, you probably have like a similar thing like in your worlds where it's like there's like a competitive nature with music, and then there's going to be like the comparative side of it and stuff, which is, yeah, it can be difficult to navigate that, I guess.
definitely. Do you think that's like, we've got a question from the floor, it might tie in quite nicely. It's like biggest things you think set people back in building their music career? Do you think that fear of competition, or like what other things can you guys think of?
I think that. Am I okay to speak?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we've opened to the floor now. Thanks,
Cool.
Joe. I found that really interesting hearing that like different like
Yeah, it was great.
never. Yeah.
I think what Melanie said about having that, the competitive nature of music and like everyone like comparing themselves to each other. Like the thing is even though you're like comparing yourself to each other, like it's about what like being authentic to yourself and like your vision and your route and what you want to do. You've got to totally be yourself, and you can't be anything less or more than that. There might be things that impact on that, like in terms of influences and like people you meet and things, but I think that can be a setback, is like trying to compare yourself to like too many people, like, and be like, oh, I'm not good enough, or I'm not there yet, or like trying not to, like not finishing stuff because you don't think it's not good enough. Like I'm like a big one for doing that. I'm like, I open a session or whatever, and I'm like, I'm gonna start creating this track, and I'm like, oh cool. Like, I showed you that track on that Zoom like a couple of months back now, and it's still not done because I'm not happy with it. But like one thing, learning to finish stuff even though it isn't perfect, because that's part of the journey, that's part of the route. It's like you've got to finish this one thing and then move on and do the next thing, and like that's how you progress, and like that's how you grow.
Yeah, definitely. That self-belief, I think, is without being like too I'm the best, but like
Yeah, there's ways around it.
just just having that belief in that what you're doing is actually like great
Pretty important.
Yeah, I think like,
or worth it for you at least.
yeah, I think following on from that like idea of like self-belief and stuff is like valuing yourself and like your skills. I think that's definitely like a massive setback a lot of musicians and artists will find in their career is, and I definitely found this at the start for me as well, like I wasn't sure like how to like value myself and like how to make money, because I didn't know how much money to be charging for things, and I didn't know, you know, how much money I should be making, and I didn't understand like my value kind of thing.
Yeah,
I think there are so many different elements, like as Melanie was saying about, you know, it being business-like and entrepreneurial, and, you know, Josh's idea of or not idea, you know, the production side. There's so many different elements that, you know, to kind of master all the elements is completely impossible, isn't it? So you have to kind of yeah, it's a really difficult one to get around, isn't it? And to find your path through, you know, without. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have an answer myself. You know, it's really difficult, isn't it?
I guess everyone's working it out. I think I had like a conversation with someone the other day, like, because obviously I'm just starting out with all of this, and I was thinking, oh, she's on the other side of the hill and she's done everything, and she was like, no, I'm
Totally
still
not.
learning everything, and I'm still thinking about everything, and
Mhm.
I'm still in that space. We have another question that maybe sort of builds on this topic of is there anything that if you could do it again, would you do it differently? That you would do differently, or are you really happy, like this is what has made you and you're quite happy? Well, obviously you're happy, but
Oh wow,
I mean,
okay, this is quite a
it's-
vulnerable question, isn't
yeah,
it?
this is
Yeah,
a good question.
it's tricky because like obviously like there's the idea of like, you know, everything that you've done has like got you to this like place that you are now, and like it's hard to say like if you had done it differently, would you be in a better or worse place? But
Yeah.
I would say like, I mean, there's probably a lot of things I would do differently now that I think back on it anyway. I think one thing, like from like the perspective of like me as an artist, is, yeah, like what I said right at the start about like not understanding how valuable a fan base was, and like neglecting that, and like not using that to my advantage sooner. Like I had this like big following, and then I decided to just like come off social media for like a whole year because I didn't like it and I didn't want to be on it. And like that,
Social
like,
media is tough. I find
it's
it really
horrible.
tough.
It is. It's savage.
It's hard, and like especially when it's like a piece of like your business, like you have to use social media to promote yourself now, and I didn't want to do that. I just tried to like reject that kind of thing, and like was like, I can be like a music person without social media, and that didn't work. And I would say that's like one thing I would do differently at the start, is like learning how to like navigate social media as a platform to like promote your music and like promote your business without it like getting in the way of your life, and like using it in a positive way, I think.
Do you
Yeah,
have any tips for that?
Yeah, I would say finding the balance between like why are you using social media? Like, have the intention of like what is it and what are you doing, and like, are you using it in a productive way? Because like so often I'm like scrolling through like Instagram and I'm like, it's like my work, I use it for my, like, you know, it's like my music, but like really I'm just scrolling. And I think like having yeah, just like being a little bit stricter with yourself, like why are you using it, what's your intention, and like use it productively rather than just like mindlessly.
Be mindful of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's because like so many people, like that's where so many people are and where their minds are focused. Like such a massive part of people's lives and what they do day to day. So like to like be able to utilize that as part of your path.
Making that decision if that's what you
and
want to do, and if you can, because I'm sure there's other routes as well, but I think the fan base is such an important thing, as you said. We have another question that's maybe like off that. This is like, do you feel musicians are being supported properly by the government in this COVID? If not, what could be done to improve opportunities at the moment? If you could tell them what to do. It's quite a deep question.
It's a big question.
Do you want to take this one, Joe?
My personal experiences have been that it's easy for musicians to be kind of, because of the nature of being a musician, you're kind of caught between different, you know, non-contracts or you know, different things, and the government generally doesn't kind of consider that. It's more blanket for all, you know, this is one group, this is the other, where the musicians kind of fit into different categories, and there's been generally less support for that, I'd say. And because, you know, I think if you're either self-employed or you're employed, and if you get paid for being self-employed, during you get a grant or whatever, and you get a grant for being employed, or the furlough or whatever. But if you're in between two and you're employed by someone, but you're earning money as a self-employed, you don't get anything. So it's a really difficult. I don't have a kind of answer as to how they could improve on it. I think it's a really difficult question, and it's a really difficult time for all musicians. But the way people have adapted and have done things is quite incredible. You know, there's some really positive things to take out coming from musicians, and it's, you know, respect.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think there is a lack of support, but then again, I think there's a lack of support from the government for like most industries, especially like right now during the pandemic. I think it's like been tough on like creatives and artists and like literally everyone. But I do think, yeah, like what you said, Joe, like as creatives, we are generally like quite good at finding new ways to make things work, and like, you know, innovating and making it work and finding ways to support ourselves. And but yeah, I do think there is a lack of support generally, but yeah, that's my opinion.
Yeah, I just feel like there's a massive misunderstanding around like the creative industry in general, and like what career paths, like what we're talking about today. Like there's so many different paths of work and like so many lines of work in music.
Yeah, I think there's like this stigma that like having a creative job isn't a real job. Like I get asked so often when people like ask me what I do for a living, and I'm like, oh, I'm a singer-songwriter, and they're like, that's your real job? Like you make money from that? And I'm like, yeah.
Get a real job.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot, and I feel like there is that like stigma attached to it, like that it's not like a proper job, you know. But then like there's been like all this stuff, like music and art is like what's got people through this pandemic. Like it's what keeps us like connected and like keeps us sane, kind of thing, and without it we'd be doomed. We really would.
Exactly the same people that were saying like that it's not essential and whatever, and like have this stigma of being the people that are like now relying on it. And I hope it's like kind of changed people's perception.
Yeah,
I really do hope that.
sounds straight. Cool. Well, I've really enjoyed this conversation. I feel like I've got quite a lot of information about like all the different routes, and like I think that thing about self-belief is really important. And I think just saying like I really think like this is what I love. So maybe do we have any closing comments?
Yes, a closing comment for me. I was waiting for someone else to go so I could think of something clever and cool to say, but I can't. So I would just say, yeah, like following on from this like idea of self-belief, just like valuing yourself and your work and like believing in it. If you have like a passion for something, that's like gonna keep pushing you through no matter what. And there's gonna be like a lot of hurdles and obstacles literally like for the whole time, but it's worth it because music is great and it's a cool job to have. So that's my closing comment.
Yeah, mine is to like try and reach out to people. Like we're all here, the whole BlueJam team's here. Like we've all had different experiences in the industry, like, and you've just got to try and research which route is best for you at the time. So like speaking to people is the best way to do that, and learning from what they've been through. You could maybe get a little bit closer to narrowing your kind of what you want to do.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think music is a really important part, as Melanie said, of everyone's life. And, you know, if you want it to be your job, then yeah, great. Have that self-belief and have that passion. But, you know, it can be whatever. It's just a great thing, isn't it? In whatever form. As we've been saying, there's so many pathways and so many different elements. Even if you're a little bit involved in one of them, that's like awesome, isn't it? It's just great.
Yeah, I think so. And it's that thing about connection as well. Like there is so much value in that, and yeah, whatever you want that to be. I think that's a great note to end.
Yeah. Perfect.
Cool. All right. Thank you guys for watching, and thanks to all of you for coming. I really appreciate you sharing your story. So great.
Thanks.
Thanks very much.
Bye.